My name is Anna McDougall. I'm presenting today with my colleague Andreas Prang, who is Head of Cloud Infrastructure Services. I'm Director of Product and Engineering, also a technical advocate for Axel Springer National Media and Tech. And today we're going to talk about balancing service centralization with team autonomy. Let's just get straight into it, huh? Wonderful. Good job. So this is going to be a basic outline of how we're going to present this to you. First, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are, what do we do, how did we get here, or how did we get to the point where we had a problem to be solved, what was the solution to the problem. We're going to talk a little more in detail about maps, and you'll find out what maps is very shortly, and then have a little look into the future. And hopefully by the end of that, you will have some ideas for how to reach this glorious balance. Next, please. Perfect. So what is National Media and Tech? If you're German, you probably already know about Axel Springer. We're Europe's largest media publishing house. National Media and Tech is a subsidiary of Axel Springer. We look after the tech needs for the national media brands. So we have almost 600 employees. In tech and product specifically, we have about 300. We have 33 dev teams. And just a nice kind of statistic, our websites attract over 3 million unique end users every day. So we are dealing with large volumes, and we're also dealing with complex needs, as we will see in the next slide. Thank you. So I won't go through all of these one by one, but this is a basic idea of how we are split up into our different sections. The two major national publications that we serve are Bild and Welt. On top of that, we have a CMS that serves journalists, and we also have a data team that looks after our analytics and our data lake. We have an ideas team that has a text-to-speech product. We have, of course, advertising, ad tech, ad serving, and we also have a video department. So you see we're touching a lot of different types of data, we're touching a lot of different types of needs, and a lot of different types of developers, which of course, as you can imagine, creates a few issues. Now I'll hit over to Andreas to give you a little bit of a background of where we got up to before, I think it was 2018, right? Yeah. Okay.
So how did we get here? Like most of the companies, we started in a data center for the web service in the early 90s. And early before 2018, Axel Springer decided to put all the IT departments into one company. So and this is Axel Springer National Media and Tech. In 2018, there was a decision made to join all these teams in one cloud. So to move all the services into the cloud, today AWS. And we let the teams decide how to get there. So some teams decided to use serverless, some teams decided to take Kubernetes, and so on. But all the teams, after 2 years, had something in common. And this was, in almost every team, we saw there's one DevOps and a lot of developers. So one person focusing on the infrastructure and the rest building features for the team. So at this point, we started a workshop, talking to the teams. So we asked the teams to please send delegates to answer one question. How would we like to develop infrastructure for National Media and Tech in the future? And we had 3 possibilities in the end. Number 1, we quit the one team we already had, the operational team. So we will not have a centralized infrastructure team. Every team takes responsibility for infrastructure on their own. Number 2, to have a centralized teams, but this team just creates templates, so Terraform, modules, which can be used by the teams, but still the teams are responsible, so the development teams. Or number 3, to have a centralized platform team, building a platform as a service. And the result was 75% of the teams decided to go with number 3. So please, let's have a centralized team. And 25% choose number 1. We would like to keep the old way, how we set it up in our environments.
So naturally, this creates a little problem, right? Which is that you've got 75% saying we want this, that's great. Majority, yes, we go ahead, we're going to start it. But the problem is that it's not like you can onboard everyone in one day. It's not like you've convinced everyone of what you have to offer. And of course, we hadn't built it yet, so that was also a thing. So we had to also think about how are we going to motivate autonomous teams to actually come on and use this centralized infrastructure that we're creating. And so, oh, you want me to do it? Okay. So that the problems inside that problem, if you will, is that the first thing is there are complex interdependencies between teams, right? These teams already have the infrastructure set up, they're already working together, and there are a lot of different ways in which these things connect. I mentioned the CMS that we have for our journalists earlier. Once an article is fired off, okay, that might then need to go into build group to be deployed into the website and the app. Furthermore, there might be video that's not ingrained, what's the word I'm looking for? Embedded into the site. So you also need to be able to access that easily. There might be images that are used, so we need to access that too. So there's a lot of different ways in which the teams are crossing each other and interacting with each other. The major problem, from my perspective, was the differing levels of experience. So we had some teams where you had a DevOps engineer who was very, very experienced. You had others where they were all software engineers who had never touched pipelines before, and you had everything in between, right? So we had different levels of DevOps experience, deployment experience, and crucially, security experience. We are dealing with big brands, we're dealing with a lot of traffic, and we're very public. And so there is, of course, the risk of attacks, and so we needed to also be very aware of our security and make sure that everyone is coming up to that same minimum level. So how do we do that? How do we get that minimum level of compliance and stability? And then also the main thing for us is we also want to empower, and we'll get into this more soon, we want to make sure that developers can focus on code. Yeah, so the ones who don't necessarily want to touch DevOps don't have to touch DevOps. They can just focus on their code and their cool logic.
Right, so at this point, 75% of the team said, let's have a centralized team, and this problem is facing. We started building the platform, and we called this platform MAPS, Managed Platform and Services. And we choose this topic, this name as well, because it's infrastructure, right? And the infrastructure is written down on a map. So we started taking over the responsibility for the first team, and this was, or the first teams, just one setup for build the e-delivery. And the good thing here, there was one colleague inside the team being responsible for the infrastructure. And he said, I would love to work together in a central team together with you, building a platform like this. And let's take the account into our responsibility. So at this point, we started working on the platform, but we had in mind, okay, let's find an easy way to communicate the solution we would like to have or the purpose we have inside the team. And we came up with long sentences, why we are doing what. And in the end, we came up with a very simple one. We empower teams to focus on business logic. So this is what we still do. So we take care about the infrastructure, and the teams completely can focus on building their applications, building features. And to serve the development teams, we have many technical solutions. On the one hand, like networking. Whenever a team would like to connect to a service, might it be in a data center, might it be in another AWS account, Azure, wherever it is, we make it happen for them. We have Kubernetes. This is the heart of the platform in place. A lot of observability, databases, and for sure, a lot of security topics as well. But that's not it. We, next to the technical solutions, provide a lot more.
That's right. So of course, the natural thing that you need to provide for developers, as I said, to get everyone up to the same level is training. So we run regular training sessions. We also have kind of like an on-call service. We provide general support. I mean, basically, we just try to be there for them, provide everything that they need, both in terms of, as Andreas said, the technical side, but also in terms of the competency side. And this kind of brings us to the next idea, which is that we didn't want to view them as customers, people coming to us. We wanted to kind of refer to them as colleagues and kind of say, okay, we're all here together. We're working on this together. We might not be in your team, so to speak, but we are working for a common goal. So let's do that as one, rather than having this kind of top-down or bottom-up kind of approach.
Right. So we started onboarding the first teams. As you can see, we started with build delivery. A little bit later, we started with the books. They are also part of build, but in another product. Continued with the live stream of build.de, which runs on Kubernetes, but with a lot of customization for the customers, and another project in the end. But there's one thing you can see, and this is we spin up almost 2 setups per year. And already end of 2020, we noticed it's not scaling. We cannot continue in this way. So it was not all sunshine and lollipops in the end, right? And why have we been in this situation? Yeah, because we started developing the platform, bringing the right features in place for the teams. So this is what we focused in this project in. But we kept the architecture down below. So we still had the templating. So one repository where the features of the platform are developed. And this one has been forked into new repositories to spin up the different environments for the teams, for the products. And the downside here was it took us almost 4 weeks to spin up one environment because we still had a lot of manual steps. And one of the biggest problems we have been faced with is every repository down below has been in a different state. And it took us a lot of effort updating these environments for all the teams. And this is a security risk as well, right? So in 2021, we started with a new project. And this is scaling, we call it scaling maps, to build Maps 2.0. And at this point, we more focused on building the platform in a way to have the same methods like developer already used for many, many years, like continuous integration, continuous delivery, and for sure the pipelining toolings, right? And so we built a platform with this architecture. Down below, there is the cloud platform. This is the tooling to roll out the infrastructure as code. And in green, you can see the platform stacks, as we call it. And at this point, we already started slicing the platform in different platform stacks for 2 purposes. Number one, in the future, we would like to be able to change the technology, not for the whole platform, but for parts of the platform. So we would like to be
able to?
Yeah, we would like to be able to quickly interact, change the technology here. And one more thing, we knew we will also scale as a team. There might be more colleagues in the future, and we would like to be able to split topics like observability in the future into one team, completely focusing on this topic. And doing it this way, they have their own space where they can choose the technology, how to deliver observability, and so on. So with the new platform we released 2 months ago, we already have 4 instances within 2 months running for the teams. They are continuously migrating. Some of them already completed the migration. And as you can see, the plan, these are the
ghosted out sections. The ghosted ones.
Yeah, the ghosted ones. You see, we are fast. Now we are really fast with the platform. And not just fast rolling out the platform initially in less than 1 day, but also rolling out features. So this means we actually bundle features and bug fixes and have almost 1 release every week, maybe every 2nd week. And within the last weeks, we already started the automated rollout process, meaning whenever there's a minor version, it will be rolled out in staging automatically, and we will continue this process.
So as Andreas said, the great thing about all of this is that we are actually delivering autonomy to the teams. So it's no longer like a battle of like, oh, use this or else. It's like, okay, you want to use XYZ technologies, here you go, you can do this, you're empowered. But of course, different developers work in different ways, so we also needed to make sure that we empowered them depending on which way they preferred to interact with our infrastructure. So we've got kind of two personas that are kept in mind. The first is Sarah. She's our back-end developer. She has an affinity with ops topics and loves the terminal, just lives there. Meanwhile, we have, as you can see, a very frustrated Tim. He's trying to work out in public in his suit for some reason, and it's just not working. I figured he's front end, so maybe he cares a bit more about style. I don't know. So he's working out there, and he's very frustrated because he's trying to work with the command line, and it's just not his deal. So we have to also be able to service Tim. So that brings us to our two modes of delivery, I guess.
Right. So for both personas, we have something in place. Let's start with Sarah. So she would like to interact with our environment the easy way. And for 2 years ago, Sarah has been in a situation that we delivered a script to install some tools on their machine, to install many of these tools to make it easy to interact with our environment. And because of dependencies, like dependencies to the operating system, dependencies to the shell she uses, it was always a mess setting them up, bringing them on a later stage, and so on. So we came up with a tool, we call it Maps CLI, or Maps Tools. And this basically is a small script as well, but it delivers a Docker container running on her machine. And so she just types in Maps Tools, starting up. She logs into the environment SES Pilots. This is one of the environments we have. And she takes the admin role. So at first, she has a look into the nodes. So here you can see, this is one of the tools we just put into the Docker container. What about the loads? Next, she tries to switch the namespace with K and X. The easy way, not writing down a long term. Afterwards, she has a look which pods are running inside. So we also have a lot of aliases inside to make it faster to work with this environment. And in the end, she switched to another Kubernetes environment with admin role as well, and so on and so on. There are many more tools we have inside, like one of my favorite ones, Stern, so to gather all the logs of different pods together and see the logs of all of these pods in one place. Just one sample. And this makes it really easy to work with the environment for Sarah on her machine. To install this application, it's just one line of code she put inside the terminal, starts this one, everything will be installed, so Docker, the Docker image and the script as well, and she's ready to go.
But let's not forget poor Tim. Oh, Tim. He sees that demo and he gets very frustrated. He doesn't know what's going on. He needs a different tool, right? And for this, we've got some front-end tools in place. As you can see, this is just a few screenshots of the kind of things we offer for Tim. And then on the right-hand side, you can see just a few examples of what's there for him. I'm just aware of the time, so let's just keep running through. And then we've also got the fact that there are some downsides. So there are, of course, no system is perfect. And not everyone is happy with this. As we said, 75% really wanted it. I would say we were talking about balancing autonomy and saying that we need to make this attractive, so that people choose, that teams choose to use this. Of course, not every team does choose to use this, and there are some reasons for that. The first is that some teams actually want responsibility for DevOps. They like having that within the team. They've always done it that way, and they feel happy with that arrangement. And they also see it kind of as a restriction of their own technical development to not be able to expand into those areas. So some people want that. We also had a bit of an identity crisis we mentioned before, back when we started integrating cloud into NMT, that a lot of, or basically every team had their own DevOps engineer. So what do when a new centralized infrastructure starts existing? Well, they have a bit of an identity crisis. Some of them moved across to the team, but others, of course, still want to maintain that control over what they've done and what they always do. And the last thing is that we do try to support as many different, let's say, choices that developers make as possible, but there are always some obscure packages and databases. Developers have their favorite tools, they have their favorite packages, and sometimes we don't have support for that yet. And so in those instances, it also doesn't quite work for them. So what is next?
Right, what's next? We have the platform in place. The teams are happy using it. More and more teams are joining the platform. But beginning of the year, we already started switching into the next gear. Because at this point in time, we started working together with the colleagues of Axel Springer IT. So this is another part of Axel Springer, another unit. And we said, let's do a platform like this together. And so we started with a new program, one cloud platform for both units, to build Maps OCP. And because we are a little bit going to the end, I will skip some information here, but basically we now are focusing on extending the platform to have more automation, like the landing zone. So far, the accounts have been provided by Axel Springer IT, and we set up from this point. We will completely put this topic into the platform, or to rethink networking, because networking so far, it has been built many, many years ago for an infrastructure which is centralized on a data centers, and now we are switching into the cloud. So let's rethink, how should we do network for the next decades? So these are the topics we are starting now. So in the end, what did we learn? Just a few points. Number one, let's treat the code, the infrastructure as code, the same way developers do. Number two, use professional pipelining tools. In the very beginning of Maps 2, we thought about, let's do it manually. Let's build something to have pipelines to roll out infrastructure as code. In example, with actions or with something we should build on our own. But in the end, we came up with a solution. Let's take a great partner. So in our case, we choose Spacelift to have great pipelinings. Number three, take small steps. Meaning, you have seen, we always had our iteration. It was almost 1.5 years for each. And it was the right decision, I think, because we always reached the expectation, the goal we had, and we focused on changing one big part of the platform. And last but not least, offer regular training and great developer experience. This is crucial.
Yeah, as I said, that last point is really it. When we're talking about the balance, we're talking about attracting them, that's where it comes in. So anyway, that's what we have to say. That's kind of what we've been up to, what we've been trying to do. Thank you so much. And you can contact us with these email addresses or on LinkedIn, however you prefer to work. Thank you so much.
So we have a couple of questions. And with a couple, I mean a lot. So which is good because the next session only starts at 3, so we have some time, right? You have 20 minutes to stand here, right? And answer questions.
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. So, of course, there's the one question is why build versus buy? Why didn't you just use Backstage? I mean, that's what I think the summary of this question is. They need to think about this one for a little bit.
Wait a second. What's the question? What is
the top
difference
one
between your approach and a portfolio-driven one that you can implement with Backstage? So let's take Backstage. We plan to use Backstage in addition to what we showed you, because we think Backstage is a great solution to have all informations for each services the teams would like to run on top of our platform, to get all informations about security, about something we would like to do, rolling back a service, an example for a front-end developer, just one place where all the information is in, and so on and so on. So I see Backstage as a great addition to what we already have, especially regarding I, as a developer, would like to spin up a new service, a Hello World, where I can start coding immediately, and I don't need to take care about Helm charts and things like this. This is something which can be solved using Backstage. So it's a great addition to the platform we have.
Right, question from me, because I am up here and you're not, so I can just choose whatever question I ask. Are you going to open source maps? Is that a thing that is a possibility? I see some smirks. Okay. I don't know what that means.
I think actually the product is not in a shape to open source it, let's say.
Isn't that always the answer when you ask, well, are you open sourcing this thing? It's like, oh, well, it's not very pretty, so maybe not yet.
Let's take the question with us.
Okay. That's a very diplomatic answer. All right, another question. Let's see. Did you also provide CI/CD pipelines? Were the pipelines of different teams similar enough that you could centralize that in any, way?
So pipelines for developers, this is what's meant, right?
Yeah.
So for developers, we basically have one solution to roll out the services. We, in example, have solutions to have Phoenix environments. This is something where we support the development teams a lot. I'm not sure if everyone knows Phoenix environments. So it means, in one sentence, whenever the developer creates a new
instance.
Words. Come on.
Let's say a new pull request, we spin up a new environment for this version of the software, just copying the infrastructure code at this point. So this is something we have for all the teams the same way.
Okay. What were some of the major changes that made Maps to scale so much better?
Yeah, so I think the major points I already talked about, right? So for the teams, it was not a big change from Maps 1 to Maps 2. Yes, we use something like Flux version 2 and stuff like this. So this is great for the teams. But basically, the big change is continuous updates. This is the big change for the teams, I think.
All right. Was it also a success cost-wise to create this platform?
You might have seen on the big slide for the next iteration. So for Maps OCP, there is we have one huge topic we need to talk about, and this is FinOps. This is something we need to get into. We already have some services in place to serve the teams, taking their cost responsibility on the setups. But this is one of the topics we can improve a lot.
All right, maybe one more. I saw a nice one. Highlight. What kind of permissions do the developers have on the platforms that are created for them, like cluster admin or cluster reader, and how do you manage those?
So actually, they still have the admin rights. I'm not sure who of our company is listening to this talk. But to be honest, we plan to reduce the rights, but we can just do it if we can still solve the problems the development teams have. So if they need to have the access, the question is, why do you need to have admin rights in the end? And how can we solve it so that you can do what you would like to do?
Right. Okay. I know I said last one, but now I want this one too. How do you gather feedback on the platform from your users or colleagues?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this was one point on the slide about what we provide next to the technology stuff. And one of the big points is we have a community of practice, which is driven out of our teams. So we most often talk about the platform and the things we have. So this is one way we communicate with each other. We also have a channel between all the different teams using the platform and us, where teams can always ask a question. And for new requests regarding features, we created something like feature requests in Jira. So whoever would like to have a feature inside the platform can create a feature request ticket, and we will have a look and give feedback.
But also, I mean, it's just, we're providing them with ongoing support. Like we're talking to them, or they're talking to them every day. So there is also this thing where if something comes up as they're working with it, it becomes known. It's not like a black box kind of thing where we just like pass it to them and then walk away. We're there with them on the ground. We're all on the same level.
No survey that feeds somewhere into a bin and you're not. Okay. Well, excellent. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions for our speakers, I'm sure you can still find them here. I see that some of them are upvoted quite a bit. So if you still want to have that question answered, please join our speakers up here. And then we're back here at 3 p.m. for our next talk. So thank you very much.
Thank you.